Hello everyone, this is Crota giving you another look into the numbers for StarCraft 2. In this look into the numbers, we're going to be talking about minerals. Some of the viewers had asked me, how do you know how many production buildings you need and how should you spend your minerals? And I was thinking about this and thinking about how important minerals are to the entire flow of the game. So let's go ahead and talk about minerals. Now, first of all, everything in the game costs minerals. If you want to train a unit, it costs minerals. If you want to build production building, it costs units or costs minerals. If you want to build tech buildings, it costs minerals. So minerals is one of the most important resource. Otherwise, it doesn't matter how much gas you have, minerals are needed. The problem with minerals, however, is that minerals essentially earn you no interest while in the bank. Because you cannot earn interest while in the bank, you want to spend those minerals as fast as you can. You want to leverage every single one of your minerals in order to get you to win the game. Either if it's through researching higher tech, researching weapons upgrades, teching out so that you can produce cloaked banshees, or training up ultralists. Whatever you do with your minerals, you're trying to spend it as quickly as possible in order to gain an advantage over your opponent. Now, in a majority of the time, you will be spending your minerals on units. And this is where it comes to the question of how many production buildings do you need in order to spend your minerals effectively. Now, assuming that you are running off of one base essentially gives you around 800 minerals per game minute. So with that number in mind, you can come up with charts like this. So let me go ahead and explain this chart for you. And on the left hand side, you can see that every single Terran unit has been listed. It will also show you the mineral cost and the build time. With that, you know how many units you can train essentially per game minute. And with that, you also know that one barracks, if you are constantly training Marines, needs 120 minerals a minute in order to do non-stop Marine production. With that number, that means that you will need 6 to 7 barracks in order to non-stop train Marines if you have 800 minerals a minute, 4 barracks if you have it with the reactor. Now, you will never ever have perfect macro. You will never ever be able to spend your minerals as quickly as it comes in. So what that means is, at some points in the game, you will have a small cache of minerals. With that in mind, if you have four barracks with reactors pumping Marines and you have 1,000 minerals in your bank, even if you train Marines out of your barracks as quickly as you can, because your income and your spending is exactly the same, you will always end up sitting on 1,000 minerals. So that's why you will see a lot of professional players produce additional production buildings for that reason. They know that they cannot keep up on top of their macro 100% all of the time, so they allow for additional production buildings to be able to dump their minerals very effectively. Now remember though, your minerals, your production buildings do very little to stop the army, stop an incoming army unless they're training units. So if you have too many production buildings that your production buildings are sitting idle, then that is no good as well. So taking a look at this chart, you can see that you can go through the numbers. I'm not going to go through every single example as there are also 2 more races to go through. Taking a look at the Protoss chart is a little bit larger, and you may be wondering why the Zealot and the Sentry, the Stalker, the High Templar, and the Dark Templar are actually listed twice. The reason why they're listed twice is the top 5 here is if the Zealot, Sentry, Stalker, High Templar, Dark Templar are trained normally out of a gateway. The next 5 are if they're trained out of a warp gate. Now, a lot of you may not know this, but the cooldown time, one gateway takes 38 units of time to build a Zealot. However, one warp gate can warp in one Zealot every 28 units of time. That's because of the cooldown difference, and that's one of the reasons why warp gate research is so important. It effectively increases your warp gates and by 10 units of time across the board on all of your units. High Templars only take 45 units of time for that cooldown to reset. Dark Templars also only take 45 instead of 55. So if you are going for those high-tech, high-tier units, you have to get warp gate. I don't think I've ever seen a High Templar or a Dark Templar ever be trained from a gateway for that reason, just because the High Templar and Dark Templar from that warp gate is so much faster and so much more critical. So taking a look at this chart, if you are receiving 800 minerals a minute, you need 5 gateways in order to be able to dump your 800 minerals a minute. However, if you have 4 warp gates and you're trying to train zealots as well, you can dump all of your 800 minerals every game minute. So that just goes to show you how much more effective zealots from a gateway are than zealots from a warp gate are than compared to a gateway. Now, I was trying to figure out how to talk about Zerg, and Zerg in general is very, very difficult to really talk about. First of all, there's not that many units out of Zerg, and the questions and the numbers behind this are a little bit different because of how the Zerg and how larvae work. First of all, if you did not know this, one larva is generated every 15 units of time if there is less than 3 larvae at the hatchery, layer, or hive. So that's how, and so with these numbers, you know that your build time of a Zergling is 24. So that means that in 1 minute, in 1 game minute, you essentially will be able to train 4 groups of Zerglings every game minute. And with that, you can spend 200 minerals at that hatchery every game minute. Now, what I really like about the Zerg in general is that the Zerg layer, the Zerg larva allows for Zerg tech to naturally scale with their production, or the Zerg production to naturally scale with their tech. At the end point of the game, you can use that one larva and spend 50 minerals to train 1 Zergling. Or you can use that one larva and spend 300 minerals to train that 1 Ultralisk. So that's a little bit of the reason why it's so difficult to figure out how exactly you want to spend your minerals for Zerg. I couldn't come down with a hard and fast numbers, but just know as your economy naturally picks up for Zerg, you generally will never need more than 1 base with a queen. One hatchery with a queen for every base that you have, because you can naturally see that if you look at this over here, you get 6 additional larvae per game minute if you are using spawn larvae from a queen. That means that in 1 game minute, you are gaining 10 larvae from a hatchery. If you're trying to train Ultralisks, that means that you're gonna be training you can dump 3,000 minerals a minute, assuming you have the gas, in order to constantly train more and more Ultralisks. And that's the reason why Zerg production is often so scary. When you walk into a Zerg base and you see 2 hatcheries, but you see 10 larva eggs at each of those hatcheries, you really have to be on the defensive. You don't know if Ultralisks are going to pop out, if infestors, if hydras, roaches, or Zerglings. But depending on those numbers, you can easily be swarmed. So I'll just go ahead and leave this chart up for another quick second so all you Zerg players can study it a little bit more. And then finally, the ultimate conclusion that I have is, for minerals, you want to spend your minerals as quickly as possible. Build production buildings if you have a large cache of minerals, because you will not be able to, because if you already reach equilibrium with your spending, as with your production, you will never spend the cache of minerals that you currently have. So build additional production buildings, and perhaps just 1 or 2, so that you can start dumping your additional cache. Finally, and with minerals, you always want to expand before your current mineral patches run low. If your main base or your main mining location has less than 8 or it has less than 7 mineral patches, 5 if you're at a high yield mineral location, you should already be trying to establish another expansion somewhere else. Otherwise, your cash flow will grind to a complete halt, and you will find yourself very, very behind the 8 ball, essentially, because you are unable to win any wars of attrition. Thanks for watching. Go ahead and post your comments. If you have any additional questions about minerals, let me know. Post it in this comment section. I will try to answer them. Also, if you have not already done so, please like this video. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. I hope this was informative, and I'm currently trying to figure out what I want to do for my next batch of Q&A and StarCraft 2, a look behind the numbers. Thanks for watching.